Are you like most sales and other professionals who want to grow their wealth faster than what they are currently doing through their company 401k, even with that company match, the stock market, or just plain saving money? Would you sleep better at night if you had the financial freedom to be job optional in just 3 to 5 years through investing in real assets? Maybe you don't want to stop working, but wouldn't it be cool if you could retire a decade earlier than most? And do the traveling you and your family have planned for years while you're still young and can enjoy it? Let's face it, most busy professionals don't have the time or desire to take on more work outside of their W-2 to grow their wealth. On The Wealth Flow, each week we share the stories, the investments, and take a deep dive into the various asset classes that can deliver that accelerated growth to your portfolio passively. That's right, no extra work for you. Instead, we'll put your money to work. Learn what the 95% aren't talking about and join the top 5% of earners today on The Wealth Flow.
All right, welcome to another episode of The Wealth Flow. My guest today is Maura McGraw. Maura is a real estate investor, a Marine veteran. Prior to starting her business, Maura served 10 years as a Marine logistics officer. Thank you for your service, Maura. And in 2018, she founded Doratus Properties, a real estate investment firm based in Alabama, and has grown it to $3 million in annual revenues with a portfolio of 50 plus properties. She also co-founded a property management company called Freedom Ventures Property Management in 2019 and has grown that to 600 plus assets under management in just 3 years. So, Maura, welcome to The Wealth Flow.
Thank you so much for having me, Keith. I'm so excited to be here.
I am too. And I always start with really your background. I always like to go back to kind of where you grew up. And in your case, what also led you to serving as a Marine? It's an unusual path. I've got a good cousin of mine that did the same, and she actually flew. I don't know what type of jet. I should know, but I don't know what type of jet. But she flew something. Yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, yeah. Tell me a little bit about what happened there, and then what eventually led you to real estate.
All right. Well, I originally grew up in the Bay Area in California and went to college at George Washington University in DC for my undergraduate degree. I was there from 2006 to 2010 studying politics, defense, Arabic, and also playing rugby. And as I went through different internships and kind of defense-related fields, I liked what I was studying and interning in, but I looked around and if you know it, the Washington bureaucrat has a little bit of a look to them, and they usually look about 10 years older than they actually are. There's a high percentage of alcoholism that runs in the town, and I just knew that as a young person, that probably wasn't the environment that I wanted to be in. I thought, ideally, I would love to find a job that was both mentally and physically challenging, which there's not too many of those out there. So I started looking into the military. And at that time, we were at war. So it was kind of like very prescient. And there was a lot of veterans that went to school with me at GW because they were coming back from the war. We were in DC, right near Walter Reed. My school had a really good program for vets. So I ended up meeting a lot of Marine veterans who, as they got to know me, they realized that I probably was a little crazy and had maybe what it took to be a Marine. So they encouraged me in that direction. And so when I was a junior, I started talking to a recruiter, and I decided that if I was going to go into the military, I might as well go all in. So I never even considered one of the other branches. I only talked to a Marine recruiter. And I think by the first semester of my senior year, I had all my paperwork signed. And so when I graduated, I think a week later, I went to officer candidate school, which is like the officer boot camp in Quantico. And that's how I decided to join the Marines.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible. Yeah, usually, well, I say usually, maybe I'm incorrect in this, but it seems like usually somebody goes and serves, then maybe comes back and does their college, and you kind of did well. Basically, you did the opposite of that. So
I had a
that's
very untraditional path. Most people, like their family members, or they grew up in a community. Of course, my grandparents, like everybody's grandparents, served in World War II,
Mhm.
or after that. But no one in my family was in the military in the Bay Area. The military is not a big thing. So I really, in hindsight, I would have loved to. I think I ended up marrying my husband, who I met in the Marine Corps, and he went to the Naval Academy. And I think that I would have loved the Naval Academy if I had kind of known more about the military at a younger age. But it just everything works out. I learned about it in college from Marines that were coming back from the war, and it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You mentioned studying Arabic as well. Is that something you were able to utilize? I mean, I think it says somewhere in here that you were maybe you were stationed in Afghanistan. Maybe not. Maybe that's
Yes, yes. So not as much as I would have liked. I wasn't, we were at war when I was in college. So I was intentional about studying Arabic and kind of knowing that I wanted to go into defense, even though I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So, yeah, I killed myself to learn this very difficult language. I did my study abroad in Egypt and Jordan, and then I joined the Marine Corps. Of course, I thought I was going to go into intelligence. I ended up going into logistics, and immediately for my first tour, I got sent to Japan, which
Hmm.
with a completely new language and alphabet. So I was a little, at first a little disgruntled about that, but I ended up loving Japan. Okinawa was amazing. And I did eventually find my way to the sandbox of Afghanistan. And I did get to use my Arabic a little bit then. I was a logistics advisor, team leader. And so I was working with the Afghan National Army and Afghan National Police. So it did come in helpful then. So that was good. But unfortunately, I didn't get to use it as much as I would have hoped. And now it's very bad.
Okay. Well, I won't break out and start speaking Arabic to you. Then we can do the
Great.
podcast in English if that works for you.
Perfect.
Awesome. And so from there, when you got out of the military, or maybe it was while you were still in, what led you to real estate as well?
I was really lucky. My parents, my father and my stepmother, had built their own real estate investment and development business over time. So as a kid and a young person, I kind of watched from the sidelines them grow their business from just one project to then many very high-end projects to owning apartment buildings all over the US. And now they do projects all over the world. So they really built something amazing that has generated a lot of wealth for them, but also gives them a really nice lifestyle. They love to travel, so they're always traveling all over the place. My siblings and I joke that we never know where to send anything because they're always just jet setting around. And so I was really lucky because I saw their example. So that's definitely what planted the seed of real estate. When it became time to make the transition out of the military, I knew that I didn't want to leave a really cool job that I loved to go work in a cubicle. I knew that I was going to need to do my own thing and have this flexibility and freedom that I ultimately wanted. And because I had seen real estate work for them, that was the most obvious answer to me. So I was really just lucky to have my parents as an example.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That is amazing to be able to lean on them, ask them, and really just have seen. I'm sure growing up and everything, you just saw their journey as they went through that. That's cool. And then what? So tell me, I guess, a little bit about the first type of property that you started to buy, and kind of what that. Maybe we can go from that as to what that sort of looks like today.
Okay. So when I got out of the military, I knew I was going into real estate. So I immediately started, I went to graduate school for real estate, which is actually a thing. I went to Georgetown, started my degree. And then my father is definitely one of my mentors. but he's not like a hold your hand or explain things type of mentor. He's a throw you into the fire type of mentor. So that's what he did. So in my second semester of graduate school, I made my business plan for the company. And my dad told me that he had a project down in Birmingham, Alabama, and that I was going to go manage it for him. And it was a ground up build. And I had no idea what I was doing. And he threw me into the fire and said, go figure it out. Go meet I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody in Birmingham. I met the general contractor there, and we had to figure everything out from there. But that was a very stressful time, but a total gift because, I mean, who has that opportunity? You know, he didn't hold my hand. He would obviously, they pick up the phone if I have questions, but it was just go figure out how to build this house from the ground up. And what better education could you ask for? It was super stressful. A million things went wrong. We went $30,000 over budget, blew our timeline. It was like a horrible project. Actually, it turned out beautiful. Like it did turn out beautiful, but like from an investment perspective, terrible. So, but that was my first project, was a ground up construction project in Birmingham. But I learned so much from doing that first project. My next few projects after that were so smooth in comparison, but that is literally how I got started.
Wow. Well, that's a great experience for sure. And in that one you did, and that was that a single family, like residence? And was the intent always to be able to build it and then rent it out, or did you guys build it and sell it, or what?
Build it and sell it.
Build it and sell it.
And that was always the intent.
Okay. Fantastic. And did you do more of those after that first one, or what came next for you?
I have not done a ground up build since then. I've done really close to that. I've done like full gut rehabs, but I've never done a ground up construction project since then. Maybe because it was such a tough experience.
Right.
But right after that, though, even as that project was finishing up, I wanted to get started in flipping houses, and that's what I still do today. So I got 2 flips under contract as I was finishing up that ground up construction project. And luckily at that point, I had learned a lot of tough lessons about, construction timelines, making accurate budgets, a lot of things. So my first 2 flips, after I had a little bit of a funding disaster at the beginning of those, but the actual construction process went really smooth. The projects performed really well. So we ended up, I think we sold both of those on the market as well. And then we used the profits from the first 2 flips to buy our first rental property. And then we just started slowly scaling up from there, like doing more flips, reinvesting into some rental properties. And then we, kind of slowly grew. And then we had a couple spikes in growth and.
Yeah. So were you using the profits then from the flipping to invest in? So did you always kind of have the plan of having some long-term rentals as well, and utilizing the profits and everything from the flip, both as a revenue to live off of, but also to be able to put into these long-term investments?
Yes, that was always my strategy, actually, from the original business plan, was to do flips and then, reinvest a portion of the profits into rental properties. That was always the goal, was to build up a substantial rental portfolio, because that's kind of where your consistent cash flow and wealth are ultimately going to come from. It turns out I actually do enjoy flipping houses, so I don't hate it, but definitely my favorite part of the business is the rental portfolio. It's that consistent, steady monthly income. Most of our tax benefits come from that rental portfolio. So overall, from a business perspective, that's my favorite part of the business, although it's hard to show that on social media or anything. The flips are what's way easier to show. So most people think that the flips are what I mostly do, but the rentals are just as important, if not more important.
Yeah, for sure. That it's not as sexy to see just a rental property, with a long-term tenant, but it is really cool to see the flips for sure. You get the before, the afters, all that good stuff. What area are you doing the flips in?
So we are in 3 markets in Alabama now. We started in Birmingham, and that's still where most of our rental properties are. And we still do flips and grow our rental portfolio in Birmingham. And a few years ago, I moved down here to a place called Fairhope, which is right outside of Mobile,
Mhm.
Alabama. So a few hours south of Birmingham, right on the Gulf Coast. So right now we are in Birmingham, Mobile, and Baldwin County. And it's just here in the South, you have Mobile County and Baldwin County. They're right next to each other. I live in Baldwin County. I drive into Mobile all the time, but people consider them very separate
Different.
markets because you have to drive across Mobile Bay. So
Okay.
so we are in 3 markets in Alabama right now.
Okay. And tell me about Birmingham. So well, that's where you did your first ground up or your only ground up deal. So you've kind of been familiar with that market for how long?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. And in 6.5 years, what are you seeing in Birmingham? I occasionally, for my work, will fly into Birmingham. It's got some really cool restaurants and some cool hotels downtown that I like. But it's also there's parts of it that are kind of sketchy, and it's at least in my eyes, right? And so,
Okay.
just curious as to your take on Birmingham.
I love this question. So, over the 6.5 years I've been working there, first of all, I love Birmingham. I love it. I think it's such a great city. It's like a small but very vibrant city, and it's grown a ton, even since I've been there, which isn't that long, but it's grown a ton. And actually, the Mayor Randall Woodfin, is kind of like a hero of mine because he is one of these amazing, charismatic mayors that gets so much stuff done that it's so rare to see. Like being in the military, I've lived all over the world. I've lived all in a lot of places in the US and all over the world. And it's rare to see a government function well, like
Yeah.
he and his administration do. He is just at him as a person, he's very charismatic, great guy. And he has built all these amazing public private partnerships. He's brought Apple into the city. He's brought a ton of business into the city, a ton of opportunities. Him and his administration have grown and developed the city so much. I think it's amazing. And I think walking around downtown Birmingham is awesome. You see so much growth, all these new stores, breweries, amazing restaurants. It's an amazing, fun city. There are still like a couple things holding the city back, one being the small airport. So that I think is something that a lot of us are hoping for airport expansion in the
Hmm.
future. And yes, the crime and education is another big thing, which the mayor has been working so hard on both of those things. So I've personally seen a huge improvement in both crime and education. He's in his second term, I think now, so I have seen a big improvement, but there still is a ways to go. But I will say, like Birmingham compared to Mobile, I've seen Birmingham improve so much. Like I think that Birmingham is like kind of the goal of where Mobile should be going in a lot of ways because I've seen that so much work be done. So there still is, of course, in all cities there's crime. There's areas
For
of
sure.
high crime and Birmingham is no exception. So there's always room to improve in crime and education, but I can see that everyone in the city is like invested in making changes in those 2 areas and in growing business in Birmingham. And as a business owner, I would say like doing business in Birmingham and Alabama is great. It is, and this is coming from I've lived in Washington, D.C., Virginia. It is so much easier and better to do business in a state like Alabama, in a state that is where it's not very litigious. The cost of doing business is very affordable. It's a very forgiving place to do business. I think if I had made some of the same mistakes I'd made here in Alabama in other markets, they would have been career killers.
Yeah.
So, no place is perfect by any means, but overall, I have very positive things to say about Birmingham.
Yeah, no, and really genuinely wanted to know just kind of, your thoughts on it because, there's a lot of really, like I say, there's a lot of really cool things about it. Just always wondered because there still seems to be like, decent pricing and stuff there as well. I mean, compared
Amazing.
to everywhere else, it still seems like you can get something for a decent deal. And so, yeah, if you feel like it's heading in the right direction, that's good.
I know the cost of living, especially I have a young I have a 2.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. The cost of living here in Alabama is, I mean, it's great. It's so much better than every other place that we've lived. So it's great.
Yeah. And so tell me, I guess, a little bit. You're doing these flips, and then you've also got. Are you a real estate broker as well, or what? Tell me a little bit about the real estate side of things. Do you help people, other investors, find potential flips? Do you sell them properties after you've flipped them? Tell me a little bit about your strategy.
Okay. Well, actually, I very recently got my real estate license,
Okay.
and that was always in the business plan for us to have an agent in house and to eventually have our own brokerage. But for a while, we did have a business partner who was a broker for several years, so it kind of got me off the hook for
Yeah.
a while. But it I did just finally get my license. Luckily, I mean, we've been able to do a lot without one for a long time. Our construction manager also has a license, so we've I don't know, we found our way without one, but I think it will just help us to have it. My main focus is my own business. However, I am passionate about helping other people who are interested to get into real estate investing. So if that's another way to help people, I would love to do it. We do help people. We have now a little education line. Like we have a course that kind of walks people through how to get started in real estate investing if they're interested. And that just came from over the years, so many people asking me the same question about how to get started in real estate investing that eventually one day I was like, I need to just put this into a little program so that if people ask and they really want to know, I just sat down and was like, if I had to go back and start all over today, how would I do it? Knowing everything I know now, all the lessons learned, exactly how would I start? And I just made a course that walks you through it. So I do have that. But day to day, our business looks like our main lines of business are flipping houses. We flip about 20 houses a year. We have a rental portfolio of 55 properties and we manage them in-house. We have our in-house property manager manage all those ourselves. We have a small lending line now from working with all of our contractors, a lot of Hispanic contractors. We realized that a lot of our Hispanic contractors can't qualify for traditional mortgages with normal banks because for whatever reason they do a lot of business in cash or whatever. They're still like in our eyes very credit worthy. They've been some of our best tenants ever, but they
Uh-huh.
just can't qualify for traditional mortgages. So we started just helping some of them um, get into houses and have this alternative path to homeownership. And now it's become a line of business for us. And it's not only for Hispanic people, it just happened to be, we have a couple Hispanics on our team and we did a lot of business with them as contractors. So it was kind of the natural way that things went. But so yeah, now we have a lending line and a
Yeah.
little education
So
line.
tell me a little about that. Is that like long-term financing? So you basically, and these are they buying from you? What are they buying? Whatever they want, or are they buying like one of the ones that you have fixed up? Or I guess tell me a little bit about that strategy.
Well, we're small enough that we can really work with people. So we structure most of them as rent to own. So we will hold the deed and then come up with a note. We're just like the bank. We'll hold the note until they pay off the deed and then transfer the deed once they've paid it off. They can pay it off early if they want um, or not. So that's how we structure most of the loans. For some of them, we will, if we have a property available, we will, sell some of them that way. But sometimes people do come to us with like a property in mind that they want, and we will just help them finance it. So I think because we still are a relatively small operation, we're able to have a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, yeah. And these are people that in a lot of cases, you've worked with or that you have some kind of a personal relationship with. And so makes it a little easier to qualify them, even if they do have those unique circumstances where, I found that even just in the rental, we do mobile home parks. And, I found that even with a lot of the folks, at first I was like, okay, if we can't verify your income, there's no chance, right?
Mhm.
But then as you start to look at it and you're like, well, wait a minute, they can show me, bank statements or whatever it may
Right.
be. Then, oftentimes some of them have been some of our best renters, always paying on
Exactly.
time,
Exactly.
never have to worry about them, type of thing. So that's good. That's interesting that you have that working for you as well.
Yeah, it's been great. Actually, it's our fastest growing line of business right now. The network effect in that community is very strong.
For
um,
sure. Yeah.
and yeah, I've loved it. I love that line of business. So yeah, it's been great. It's been about 2 years since we've
Okay.
started doing it, and we've probably done about, I don't know, 20 deals,
Oh, wow.
20
Okay.
lending deals.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And tell me a little on the so you're doing about 20 flips a year. I guess maybe before for some of the listeners and stuff, what are some of the mistakes that people make? I can give you all my mistakes that I just made on a flip that we did last year, but just curious, what are some of the things? And obviously some of it would be personal experience, or maybe it's just other people that you see out there doing flips. What are some of the mistakes that people often make with respect to that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many mistakes you can make. It's is definitely, first of all, like, much harder than it looks. It probably starts with having an accurate construction budget. That's something that's kind of hard to get right, especially when you're first starting out. And then, of course, finding good contractors is very, very hard. To this day, it doesn't really matter how experienced you are. You do get a little bit better at how to find them, but it's still hard to this day to find really good contractors to do quality work. Of course, holding people accountable is also challenging for a lot of people. Um, Dealing with big market fluctuations is another big aspect of doing flips. Like, I recently finished a flip that was a total gut rehab of a high-end luxury property. It took a year, and the market conditions changed drastically
Yeah.
in a year. So our projections when we bought the property to when, it's about to close on the 19th. So drastically different market conditions, not in our favor. So there's that. I mean, those are probably your timeline, not having an accurate construction timeline and blowing your timeline. So blowing your budget, blowing your timeline, not having a good team. Those are probably some of the main mistakes that I have made and
Yeah.
that many other people make. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think. Well, for me, it was I partnered up with a friend of mine that ever since I've known him, he's been a home builder, and he's recently, though not a home builder, but had been. That's how we met. I was a real estate agent, sold some of his homes, and we have done another business together. But he had gotten out of the business, and really, it didn't seem to me to be that long ago that he was in the business. And he's, a lot of the stuff he retained very well. There were some things that, the main things was just not having, all of the contractors. I just assume, well, he's still got plenty of friends in the business we can reach out to. We can grab this guy. And that really did not quite happen that way. We got a few folks of that were referrals from other friends that are still building and that kind of thing. But for the most part, it was we didn't have our ducks in a row when we started. So that drug the timeline out significantly. As you mentioned, construction budget, things we thought were going to be a certain price weren't anywhere close to that. I shouldn't say anywhere close. I mean, we were somewhat in the ballpark, but there were definitely more than one thing that, came about. And then similar to what you mentioned about the market change, when we were pricing the property, when we went to do our initial purchase, the market, the interest rates had started to creep up, but I was looking at, I was looking at just 6 months back on comps, but 3 of those 6 months were the higher interest rates, and as time kept going by, there were fewer and fewer deals, similar properties that were selling at the price point that we were hoping to sell for. So, yeah, it was a good lesson for me that if I want to do a flip, I'll partner with Maura and not not do one on my own. I need to stay in my own lane here with the mobile home park. So that was a good lesson for me. So
It's a lot tougher than it looks. I'll say that. I do find it enjoyable, but even to this day, it's still that's the nature of construction. Stuff's always going wrong, so you have to just accept that and try to plan for it as best you can. But it's rare to have a construction project go perfectly smoothly with no hiccups. Even
for
now,
sure.
I've done over 100 flips, and it's still I'm still learning lessons on pretty much every project.
Yeah. I think it was definitely a good learning. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It was an expensive lesson, but I enjoyed the lesson along the way. And the house turned out great. It's ended up being a great house for somebody. Lady moved in, and it's it's nice, but didn't quite fit the business plan of what we were hoping it was going to be able to do. And so what changes are you seeing? Obviously, we're dealing in a higher interest rate market right now. Things, I don't know if they're sitting on the market longer there. They certainly are here in San Antonio. But yeah, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing different over the course of the last year with respect to the market.
A lot. Yes. I mean, with interest rates being so high, you have just way fewer buyers. It's a lot harder to sell right now. In general, stuff is sitting longer. I mean, a year ago, we would sell, things would be under contract in 24, 48 hours. Like we were spoiled, like it was so easy to sell. Now it's a lot harder to sell, but it is a lot easier to buy because there's not very much buying competition. So that's the interesting thing about real estate. I think that there's opportunity in every stage of the market. And that's why we structure our business the way we did. We tried to make it recession resistant, at times when it's a little bit harder to flip, like now, is when our rental portfolio really does well, because when there's less buyers, the rental demand is up. So we have zero vacancies. We have had zero vacancy. Like even our vacancies that we do have, it's literally like, a week or less, and then it's filled. So that was intentional and has been a nice part of our business. Is there's opportunities in every stage of the market right now. I will say overall, it's harder to flip. It is easy to buy, but construction costs are pretty high. It's harder to sell. So I would say flipping is a little more challenging overall right now, but the rental portfolio is going strong.
Yeah. How about, are you seeing anything with respect to the contractors being a little bit more availability, maybe anything different on pricing? I know material is still up there. It's come down a little bit compared to where it was a while back. Appliances are starting to get a little bit more reasonable. But overall, that it seems like they've still gone up and kind of stayed at a certain spot. maybe just dipped a little bit. But anyway, what do you see? Are you seeing anything as far as the availability of being able to get a decent bid on stuff now? Because there was I think, and sorry, I'm trying to ask a question and I'm comparing it to what what I was going through as I was doing mine. But to me, it seemed like a lot of the bids that we were getting, it was like, okay, I'm going to just put something out there high enough that if these yahoos accept it, we'll go ahead and and do it. It was almost like that. They weren't fighting for the business. They was like, okay, I'm going to price high, and if they accept, then we'll go ahead and do this little deal for you.
I think that is how it is. However, for us, we have a crew here in South Alabama and a crew in Birmingham, and we try to just never let them be without a job. So we keep them constantly employed. And so, look, from availability perspective, we just try to we've found a crew and we just try to hold on to them. So I'm not looking too much for new people right now. So I don't feel like I can speak too much to if people are more available or not. I just try to make sure my guys are employed at all times. And in terms of pricing, I think that makes it a little harder for our crews to give us crazy bids just because they're usually working on similar projects for us all the time. Mm-hmm. And I have a dedicated construction manager now that is always keeping track of the contractors, all of our pricing. So I think it's a little harder for them to give us, outrageous budgets. So they maybe give up a little bit of money, but they know they're going to be constantly employed with us. So
yeah, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Even from their perspective, if they know it's going to be an ongoing thing and they're, always going to have a streamline of work, even then you have a little bit of flexibility with, if you're consistently having, I think of some of the guys that do the work for us at the parks, and if I say, hey, I need your help on this one, if we could just get this one done at an X price, I'll make it up on the next one, whatever. I have the ability to be able to do that because they know they're going to continue working. So
exactly. So I think that's an advantage of at least getting to where we're at now, the scale where we do have constant business to keep our construction crews busy, because that's it is a big risk. If you all of a sudden can't keep them busy all the time, then they will go look for other jobs, and then finding contractors is a huge headache. So that's a very normal headache of the job.
Right. What about, tell me, I guess, a little bit about, do you have anything with that many projects, any kind of system that you're using to, say, okay, here's what needs to be done on this one, so that everybody kind of, what are you using, if anything, to kind of keep it in order on the back end? I don't know if there's software or whatever it is that you may be using.
So we use Monday.com. I don't know if you've ever used it. It's not dissimilar from Asana or some of the other project management tools out there. We use it for a lot of aspects from our business, including project management. And you can kind of, it's kind of like a system where you can build your own, we build a project management one. So when we're doing the bids, you can essentially just go through this checklist of here's what needs to be done for each house. It has kind of a pricing range built in there. So it will give us a rough construction estimate up front. Then my construction manager and the GC will verify and adjust it. And then we also built in a construction timeline and draw schedule using Monday.com. We've worked over the years. We tried other systems. I don't know. We did. What was that? There's a couple that are made for builder. We've tried other ones, and just didn't love them. And so Monday.com has kind of given us the ability to make it our own within this platform that everybody already uses and understands in our company. So that is our main tool. I mean, the other tools we We use Slack, Google, Monday.com. There's still a lot of boots on the ground stuff we've realized you need to do certain inspections in person. So either me or my construction manager will do the initial, a mid, and a final inspection ourselves. We haven't found a good way to outsource or automate that.
Right.
But yeah, that is what we use for our tools. What do you guys use?
Yeah, no, we don't. Currently, I don't really have anything, and that's part of the reason I ask is, we've got obviously we use Rent Manager for our property management software, but also for my maintenance requests and stuff. So that side of it works real well. But for when we're doing a lot of capital improvements, it would be nice to have a system like that where we're really pushing things through. So yeah, I asked for the audience, but I always ask for myself as well. So I always like to hear what other people are using.
I can't say enough good things about Monday.com. We use it, for project management, but for a bunch of other parts of our business, including our rental management now. Of course, when we were running a bigger property management company, we use Buildium. We use one of the big software platforms. But now that we just manage our own stuff in-house, we're able to do all that using Monday.com as well. So I really can't say enough good things. It helps for productivity, project management. You can connect it to anything. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And then so tell me a little bit, I guess, about, well, first before we go there, what about lending? How are you funding these deals that you're doing the flips?
Now we have a big line of credit with a local bank called River Bank and Trust. We love you, River Bank and Trust. They're very great. They're a regional bank here in the Southeast. I don't know if they're in Texas. But yeah, they're a great banking partner. In the beginning, of course, it was a lot harder. As you probably know, when you're first starting a business, most banks don't want to fund you until you have a decent track record. So the beginning was a different story, but now we have a proven track record and we have a big line of credit, and that's what allows us to buy and fund our flips relatively easily now.
Yeah, no, that's great. How about as far as where do you see yourself, Maura, heading? In the next 3, 5, 10 years? Are you going to continue to add additional long-term rentals? Continue to flip? Do you see that business, the lending business, growing? Tell me, I guess, a little bit about what your vision is for your company.
Well, we have some specific goals that we're working towards right now. So right now, our rental portfolio brings between $40,000 and $50,000 a month. Our 10-year goal, 10 years from starting the business, so in 4-ish years, is to get that to $100,000 a month. Right now, we're projecting to do $3 million in revenue this year. Our 10-year goal is to be at $10 million. So we have we have financial goals that we're working towards. And really the goal is just to expand this, just continue to grow our existing lines of business. The lending line is the fastest growing line of business, and that was not in the initial business plan.
Yeah.
So, things grow and change, and I'm not mad about it at all, but I do plan to continue flipping and building the rental portfolio. Because those things have just gotten easier as time has gone on. I do kind of in the back of my mind think that at a certain point, we will make the move into commercial real estate, but I'm not exactly sure what asset class. I have a lot of experience in multifamily from managing apartment complexes. But maybe too much experience because I'm not particularly keen on it. A lot of people just ask me, they're like, well, why don't you just do apartment complexes? You know how to do that. Well, I think I saw too much maybe from managing the apartment complexes. So I think, it's in the back of my mind of eventually to move into commercial, but I just am not set on a particular asset class yet.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it's funny. People always say that, especially obviously multifamily guys and gals. They'll always be like, "Well, you should have just started with this." But I think ultimately everybody's got their own path, and there's certainly nothing wrong with just maintaining and continuing single family. I've got friends of mine that have huge single family portfolios, and they do amazing. And yes, it's a lot of roofs. Yes, it's a lot of water heaters. Yes, it's a lot of whatever, but ultimately, it's if it works for you, nothing wrong. But I am curious about just hearing, briefly what are some of the things when you say you manage the multifamily? What popped in your head when you said that, as far as a reason why you'd kind of give it pause or whatever?
Okay. So I co-founded a property management company and helped run it for a little over 3 years from starting in 2019. And it was a crazy journey. We grew from 0 to over 600 units under management in like 3 years with no marketing. There's just a desperate need for good property management in our area. And we ended up managing several apartment complexes in our portfolio. And I personally was in charge of managing 3 apartment complexes here in Mobile, in kind of rougher areas where I had to carry a gun and bring my dog everywhere I went. I dealt with, um, you know, regular crime at the properties, a shooting. I personally had to evict several drug dealers. And dealt with everything, floods, fires, you name it, I dealt with it. And it kind of culminated in this absolute catastrophe, where an entire apartment building flooded
Hmm.
because it was a building that was built in the 90s with a type of PVC that was later subject to a class action lawsuit because it wasn't manufactured properly. Essentially, the PVC just became very brittle and would crumble over time. So this one day, I was getting ready to go to work and I got a call that a pipe had burst in the apartment building. At the time, not great, but like not outside the realm of normal for a property manager. So I had like 3 plumbers that were my on-call guys, got one of them over there. Well, over the course of the next 24 hours, there would be 10 different pipe bursts and the entire building flooded because this PVC pipe was, essentially every time we turned on and off the water to fix one problem, another problem would happen. And it was an absolute catastrophe. The whole building was flooded. People's stuff was destroyed. We're here in the deep south with high humidity. So even though we had a water mitigation and restoration team in there immediately, like mold is the black mold threat is like immediate. We had to condemn the building. We could not turn the water back on. And then we had to get all these people out, which was a nightmare because there's a affordable housing crisis here in Mobile. There's like no affordable housing. This was one of the few affordable housing apartment complexes. So there was nowhere for these people to go. All their stuff was destroyed. It was just like an absolute
Yeah.
nightmare. People were losing their minds, understandably. And it was an absolute nightmare. I had news crews and the mayor showing up to my apartment complex almost every day for a couple of weeks. I had to turn into like a crisis PR person. It was insane. But
Yeah.
that's what comes to mind when I say that maybe I saw too much in the apartment complexes. So, yeah.
Yeah. That'll do it. That'll do it. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's not normal though, but yeah, but it is from a scale standpoint, when something like that goes wrong on something so big, not only from the cost, it just, it's astronomical. It can be astronomical. And I don't know what all of that they covered with insurance and what they didn't, or,
That
if
was
there
a
were,
whole nother.
yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Well, so it doesn't have to be apartments, Mara. It can be
No,
whatever.
exactly. That's why I'm like, I think it'll probably be something else.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure the answer will come to me over time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been really cool. It's been a good, I always love hearing what other people are doing. And it seems like you've got this dialed in, and just really great conversation. So, how can people find out more about you, and if they want to connect? And
You can find me at Maura McGraw at pretty much any social media platform. And my company, Doratus Properties, we're on all the different social media platforms. So I'd love for you to come check us out, give us a follow. You can see what flips we're working on at any given time. And if you want to learn about how to get started in real estate investing, you can check out our Doratus Academy. It's doratusacademy.com. And we have a bunch of free resources, and we have our course in case you want to jump in and learn how to get started.
all right, I got two more questions for you if you have just another couple minutes.
Yes.
One of them is just, what advice you would give somebody who's just starting out in their investment journey?
Okay, great question. So my company's called Doratus, which is actually the Latin word for to endure. And I think that endurance is so, so important to success in pretty much any entrepreneurship, but definitely in real estate investing. Real estate investing is the long game. It is, contrary to what a lot of the gurus will tell you, it is not the get rich quick game at all. It is the long game. It is a tried and true long path to wealth. But I think a lot of people will get into this business and they've heard from people that maybe it's easy or it's simple. No, your first year in business is going to be hard. There's going to be a lot of hard lessons learned, just like there is in any industry. When you're brand new in an industry, your first year is rough. And the same thing is true in real estate. That doesn't mean that you are not cut out for it, that you're not going to be successful. You are just going through your first year rite of passage where things are tough and you don't know what you're doing, and that's normal. So if you stick with it, you will learn. You'll learn from all the challenges and setbacks, and you will succeed if you just stick with it. It is a relatively simple business once you figure it out, but it's going to take you at least the first year to figure it out. So just stick with it. Don't give up, endure, and just know that at the outset that you need to be in this for the long haul. You can't just give up at the first setback, or else you really won't get anywhere.
Yeah, no, that's great advice for sure. Awesome. And then one last question for you, and that is any book recommendation. Doesn't have to be real estate related, but it certainly can be. Just something that's been impactful.
Okay, my 3 favorite books for business, and they all apply to real estate investing. The first one is Profit First, and that is about how to manage your finances as an entrepreneur. And there's even a specific one called Profit First for real estate investors. So if you are having a hard time managing your company's finances, this is such a great way to get everybody on the same page and get your finances under control. It helped us so, so much. The second book is Traction by Gino Wickman. I use his EOS system in my business, and it has been transformational. I love it. And the third book is a way lesser known book called The Highest Calling by Larry Janeski. And it is a fantastic book. It's the story. It's technically a fiction book, but it's written by this guy named Larry Janeski, who is a billionaire contractor. He owns several big contracting businesses. He's done some pretty cool interviews. And he wrote this fiction book about a fictional contractor who's trying to get his business and life together. And he has a mentor pretty much guide him along. But it's really a really, really good book and not that well known. So I would really highly recommend it. It's called The Highest Calling.
The Highest Calling. No one has recommended that one. The others I'm familiar with and have read. And so, but awesome. Well, fantastic. This has been great. Maura, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a guest on The Wealth Flow.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Being that you're still here, I trust you found value in this episode. I personally wish I would have known these guests and strategies when I started my wealth creation journey. Go to wealthflow.capital to subscribe to our newsletter. And as a free gift, we will send you our quarterly market report and the top 10 things to look for in an investment opportunity. Take a minute to give our show a rating and review. Help us reach 1 million professionals by subscribing and sharing this episode with someone you know who could also find value in it.